I use Sony cameras mostly. This channel has grown with me using Sony cameras. Let's just start by saying this is not a video saying I'm switching to the EOS R right now. Let's just start it with that. There is nothing wrong with having two cameras from multiple different brands. I don't see any issue with that. Yes, it doesn't make sense financially in terms of cost. However, it's pretty much the same as someone who owns two different cars and likes to drive both cars. I like having both cameras and will continue to own, use, and buy lenses for both. I enjoy photography and video as a hobby, as well as something that I make a living doing. Sometimes we forget that. So many people started to pick up this camera last year, and I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Back Christmas time, I got a very, very good price on this from B&H, and that's why I picked it up. Now, I'm sure you're very aware, I'm sure you've heard from every other video on YouTube, this is not a spec heavy or a spec driven camera in the slightest. In terms of tech, it's actually more like a 2016 camera, really, maybe even older. But it's really hard to explain until you start to use it, and then you see what it is that makes this camera so special. I'm gonna use another car analogy. Just because a car is deemed the fastest, has the best 0 to 60 time, it doesn't necessarily make it the most fun to drive or enjoy in the real world. Basically, I wanted you to look at this with an open mind over what the specs say on paper. That's what I ended up doing, and that's when I started to really enjoy using the EOS R. I wanna tell you what I like and what I don't like, and what I'm still kind of up in the air about, in no particular order. So I've been using it more and more in the past 6 months, and it's actually now a full part of my workflow. If I need to do some super quick B-roll, a quick talking head segment, video, or a segment that just requires something quick run and gun, or even a thumbnail, this is now what I use. Let's start with the grip. So the grip of this camera is probably the best of all the cameras I've used out there. It just fits very, very snugly in the hand, and I really enjoy using it. The button placement, the layout, just the way it feels overall feels a lot more natural, and I did talk about this before in a different video. It just feels a lot more natural to use than the Sony does, and I don't know why that is. Couldn't tell you why that is. It's just one of those things where you hold it, start to use it, and then you get it. Now the next one isn't to do with the camera, but more the lens, or the main, or the only RF lens I have, which is the 35mm, $500 US, and it's incredibly impressive. The autofocus on this thing is loud, and I hate that the barrel extends when it focuses. I really don't enjoy lenses where that happens. But the images and the video that comes out of it are just beautiful from the get-go. There are lenses out there that you use, they just have that look and that feel to them. The last time I encountered this was with the Sigma 24-70 f2.8 for Sony, and I said the same thing. It's hard to describe, really. Now I get that with this, and at $500, it's a pretty good lens for 500 bucks. The flip screen, so useful. Now let me be clear here. I mean a full articulating screen, opposed to the A6400. This camera is all I use for thumbnails now. I don't need to faff about with a monitor. It's part of the camera, it quickly rotates. I can shoot a thumbnail wherever, whenever I want to. Sometimes we think having all this gear can really help, but let me be the first to tell you that it can sometimes get in the way. Having to attach a monitor, rig up a setup just for a quick thumbnail or a simple task. This is where a fully articulating screen wins. Not for vlogging, as I said, where everyone thinks you wanna look at it like that. Like, it can be really annoying for vlogging because you tend to look at it and then you're not looking at the camera. It's great for exposure, mind you, but for vlogging it really isn't that big of a deal. Talking about this screen, the res of it, the resolution is huge. I've talked about this before in a couple of videos now. The easiest way to explain it is, it's like going from 1080p to 4K. You know the difference, it's not necessarily something you need. 1080p still works fine, but you see 4K and now you want everything in 4K. Things are sharper, you can see things easier, like what's in focus. This is more than double the res of the A7III. Plus, I can trust it. The exposure reads properly, which the A7III does not with the screen. Here's a weird one I never thought I'd say. The app on your phone for communicating with the camera to remotely control video, photo, it just works so much better than the Sony one. You don't have to faff about with connecting it and reconnecting and scanning the barcode. You turn on the camera, you open the app, you hit connect, or remote live view shooting, I think it's called, and it just works. You don't have to worry about it. Tap to focus works a dream. You can see everything clearly, doesn't freeze. The app for this, what's it called? Camera Connect, works great. The top-down screen, so the screen on the top here, not something I ever thought I'd really enjoy using or have a need for, but it's always on, so you know which mode you're in when you turn the camera on, and as soon as you turn the camera on, it instantly shows you the settings that you have going on. So you don't even have to look at the back of the screen. Like, the screen's not even turned around right now, but I know what settings I'm using. So if it's just a quick shot I want to grab, I don't even have to flip out the screen. So that little top-down screen there is a really useful thing that I'm beginning to see the need for. And I know a lot of cameras aren't going to put that on there, so having it on there is probably not a good thing. The menu system on Canon, everyone talks about it. It is hands down the best one out there. Comparing Sony, Fuji, Canon, all cameras I've owned, and the Canon one just works the best. Combining the touchscreen, and the touchscreen is just like the touchscreen on your iPhone. When you combine that with the menu system, it's so easy to use, like so easy. If you're in a menu and you want to flip through, you don't have to scroll, you just tap on the menu. Hang on. You just tap on the part that you want it to go to and it goes there. It's so much easier to use and just more intuitive. Really like the menu system on Canon so far. So things I'm not too sure about. The crop, 1080p, sometimes is totally fine. I've put videos out where I've mixed in 1080p upscaled to 4K with Sony 4K video. Not one person noticed. I shot another video where I did the whole video in 1080p with the EOS R, again upscaled it to 4K. No one noticed that that whole thing was shot in 1080p. So it's making me start to realize 4K isn't necessarily necessary. It's nice, but you don't really need it. So because of that, the crop isn't really that much of a big deal to me anymore. That sounds like an excuse, but yeah, it is what it is. If I do want to shoot in 4K, then yes, it's a pain in the butt. You have to put the camera a lot further away and it's a hassle. And whatever comes in the future, I hope it doesn't have a crop, because if it doesn't have one, it will definitely be better without. The changing modes used to be really annoying. Mode info set, and it's still 3 buttons, but now it's ingrained in my head. It's a sequence of buttons and it's just muscle memory now. So it's mode info set, quick change without even having to think about it. Whereas before it was mode info set. So it's just something you get used to over time. Before it was a pain in the butt, now it's not so much. All right, let's talk about the bad things that I don't like about this. Dynamic range and low light isn't there compared to the A7 III. This is what I'd consider to be the biggest downfall of the EOS R. I'm not gonna provide you with a bunch of tests. You just need to know that if you have an A7 III, this will disappoint you in terms of low light and dynamic range. That's all we need to say. It's not the best when it comes to shooting in low light. No second SD card slot, a big thing that everyone talks about. It worries me not having that, and I definitely don't think I could use this for any form of pro work. But for just me shooting personal stuff, YouTube videos, that kind of thing, 1 card slot is more than enough. But yeah, if you needed to have a backup of all your video, you can't trust it. I haven't had issues with it, but still, it's in my head that I need to have 2 card slots. Or record with the Animus Ninja 5, it's over here, that's why I'm pointing here, and the EOS R too. The layout of buttons on the camera, so around here, it doesn't really feel natural. You have to physically move your thumb off to the side there, and it's just on the edge. I don't like the layout of buttons. It's definitely better on the A7 III. And then the cost of lenses. They are so expensive. I bought this is the 1635 f4 for 500 US used. And I don't see a reason right now for why I'd buy the 1535. It's 2300 US. The only thing I can see I would like to have is the control ring on here, but yeah, I don't think I really need that for spending all that extra money. RF lenses in general are incredibly expensive. I feel like we're at the point Sony was at like 2-3 years ago where there wasn't a lot of lenses and the lenses were out there were really expensive. So we're not there now, but I mean, hopefully that's an indication as to where RF lenses are going. There are a lot of third-party lenses out there already, but they're still pretty expensive. Autofocus on the A7 III is better. I've done a whole video on it. The EOS R just isn't as reliable in my honest opinion. That being said, the tap to focus on here is much better. I know the A7 III has tap to focus, but I do not like the touchscreen on the A7 III. With the touchscreen, tap to focus on this, really like that. So that's what I think so far, me just jotting down notes and verbally spitting out what it is that I like about the EOS R. I'm sure I've missed things that I like. Most of what I said here and what I enjoy using about this camera, as you can probably tell, isn't spec driven in the slightest, and that's why I wanted this whole video just to quickly encompass its real world use, how this camera actually handles, and how it performs for actual tasks, things I need it to do. And I actually think for certain things, this does a better job than the A7 III. But that's gonna be just the way it is until Sony pulls out their finger and gives us things we actually need. Maybe in the A7 IV or the A7S III, whenever it comes. It'll probably be out by the time I shot this video now. I know it was rumored to come early July or something like that, but it's been delayed again. Who knows? I definitely don't know. If you think I know and I have a contact, I do not. Just clear the air there, I do not. I get the same information as you. I go on Sony Alpha Rumors and drool over the fact that it's probably not gonna be out for another 3 years. So that's the EOS R and my thoughts on it after 6 months. Appreciate you watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later.